Have you ever wondered how a teacher should teach poetry to their students? Well, wonder no more because I will be discussing the lesson designs in teaching poetry. Poetry is the best way to encourage children's love for language and has a lot of appeal to them. It lays the groundwork for appreciation of language beauty, and poetry's rhythm helps students develop natural speech rhythm. And according to Professor Subrahmanyam, poetry leads to an all-round development of the whole personality of a student, particularly the emotional, imaginative, intellectual, aesthetic, and the intuitive sides. Before we proceed to the lesson design in teaching poetry, let us know first the aims of teaching poetry. First is we have the general aims at primary level, which includes to enable the students to recite the poem with proper rhythm and intonation. Also, to enable the students to enjoy the recitation of the poem and to develop the students' power of imagination. It is also included to train the emotions of the students and to develop the love for poetry and writing. Next is we have the general aims at secondary and higher secondary level, which includes to enable the students to appreciate the poem, to enable them to understand the thought and imagination contained in the poem, to appreciate the rhyme and rhythm and style of the poem, to train the emotions, feelings, and imaginations of the students, to develop their aesthetic sense, and lastly, to create love for English poetry. There are also specific aims of teaching poetry which differ from poem to poem. The specific aims of teaching poetry are as follows. First is to enable the students to recite the specific poem, for example, Sonnet 18, with proper rhyme and rhythm. Also, to enable the students to enjoy the recitation of the poem. We also have to understand the central idea of the poem, to communicate the exclusive message of the poem to the students, and lastly, to enable them to appreciate the beauty and images depicted in the poem. Next is we have the procedures in teaching poetry, which includes the following. First is preparation. This step activates the student's prior knowledge and interest. The teacher introduces the theme, the poet, or the background of the poem through actions, visuals, or short activities to set the mood and context. Also, it is included in the preparation the types of material aids that you're going to use. Next is we have the presentation. Now the poem is presented to the class through reading or listening, or the teachers may read the poem aloud while the students listen. Next is we have the comprehension and appreciation. Now the students analyze the poem's meaning, language, imagery, and literary devices. And lastly is we have the home assignment, in which the students are given follow-up tasks to reinforce their learning. This may include writing reflections, answering guide questions, memorizing lines, or creating a short poem in line with the theme. Under the preparations, following points must be considered. First is your general and specific aims must be clear to you and to your students. This is for your students to have a clear view of what they will be achieving at the end of your class or discussion. Also, the material aids or the instructional materials must be considered. A suitable material aid can be used depending on the theme and content of the poem. Now, these materials that you'll use in your discussion will help your students to be engaged throughout your discussions. This time, let us now discuss the lesson design in teaching poetry. First is we have the introduction. Now when teaching anything, it always starts with introduction. Same goes with teaching poetry. The introduction must be done in a way that can catch the interest of the learners and can create an environment suitable for teaching. The introduction to a poem can be done in different ways. First is we have a parallel poem that describes the similar emotions or similar theme may be read. Now reading a parallel poem helps the students relate to the central idea and emotions in advance. It prepares their mindset and builds familiarity, making the new poem easier to understand. We also have by giving them brief summary of the poems pertaining to the background and general theme of the poem, then asking few questions on it. Now providing a short background and general themes give students context. Asking questions afterwards stimulates curiosity and encourages active thinking before reading the poem. Next is we have by giving a life sketch, poetic style and characteristics of the poet. Introducing the poet's life and style helps students understand the poem's perspective and intentions. It connects the poet's experience with the themes and language used in the poem. Lastly, if the poem is descriptive, a picture can be shown. 2 or 3 questions can be asked about the picture. Now, using a picture creates a visual imagery and interest. Asking questions about the picture helps the students imagine the setting and details, now leading to better comprehension of the poem. After the introduction of the poem is we have the statement of aim. Now after introducing the poem and its author, the teacher clearly states the aim of the lesson. Now this helps students understand what they are expected to learn, such as themes, message, literary features, or appreciation of the poem, and gives a clear direction to the teaching learning process. After stating the aim, the presentation follows. Now, according to Ryborn, a good poem is a complete whole. Therefore, poetry should be taught in one whole unit. But in conditions that the poem is too long, it must be divided into units in such a way so that it may not lose its rhythm, music, and emotional effect. The presentation consists of the following points. We have first is the first model recitation by the teacher. Now, recitation is the soul of poetry. Reading a poem with proper rhythm, stress, and intonation is of vital significance. Now, the model recitation by the teacher helps the students to experience or feel the poem as its totality without going into other detail. Therefore, the teacher should recite the poem with proper rhythm, stress, and intonation. Next is we have the second model recitation by the teacher. Now, according to Ryborn, one reading, of course, is not enough. It must be read twice or thrice to have a greater effect. The teacher recites the poem once again with proper rhyme and rhythm. Now, this time, the students are asked to open their books and follow in it. The next part of the presentation is imitation reading by the students. Now the teacher asks 2 or 3 students to recite the poem by imitating the teacher's model reading. Now this helps students practice correct pronunciations, rhythm, stress, and intonation, and builds confidence in oral reading. Next is we have meaning of difficult words. The exposition of words are not done in details while teaching poetry. Only those difficult words and phrases which create hindrance in the comprehension of the poem should be explained. Now this avoids overloading students with details and helps them focus on grasping the overall meaning, mood, and beauty of the poem. Next is we have silent reading of the poem by the students. Now this step, the students read the poem silently to understand its theme, mood, and the main idea at their own pace. Now silent reading encourages independent thinking and personal interpretation of the poem. However, at the primary stage, this step may be avoided since the young learners needed more guided and oral reading for better comprehension and pronunciation. Next is we have the chorus recitation. At the primary stage, the students enjoy the recitation of the poem in chorus. It helps them overcome their shyness. At this stage, the teacher can read the poem line by line, which shall be followed by the students collectively, ensuring the correct stress, intonation, and the participation of all learners. After the presentation, we have the comprehension and appreciation. At this stage, the teacher asks simple and short questions to check the students' understanding of the poem. Comprehension questions helps the learners grasp the meaning, themes, and message of the poem, while appreciation questions develop the sense of beauty in language, thoughts, emotions, and imagery. Now the students may be asked to pick out rhyming words to understand the rhymes and patterns, or complete the lines to test the memory, attention, and familiarity with the poem. Also, explain the central idea in their own words to show the overall understanding and appreciation of the poem's message. Now, that concludes the lesson design in teaching poetry, which includes the introduction, the statement of aim, the presentation, and comprehension and appreciation. Now remember that the goal is to make the lessons engaging and interactive so that the students develop an appreciation for poetry. That's it, and thank you for listening.